Yeah, just want to get things started really. I'm joined obviously with Cassidy Megan, who's founded Purple Day long time ago. So thrilled that it's just grown to be a big part of everyone with epilepsy's calendar. And we're joined as well by Simon Privet, who works for Epilepsy Action, but he also has epilepsy, so he knows really well just how important days like today are. So I guess let's just get talking really, and then we can sort of take questions as we go throughout the call. So Simon, do you want to kick things off?
Love to. Thank you for the introduction, Cassidy. Great to be talking to you. I want to kind of start pretty much back at the beginning. So I guess most of the people joining today probably know at least some of the story about how you started Purple Day. So let's catch up anyone that doesn't know. It was what, 2008, and you were 9 years old?
Yeah, 2008. I was 9 years old. You know, I wanted there to be a day for us where we could come together, spread mass awareness, and educate the public on how to help someone if they see us having a seizure. And to let us know, living with epilepsy, that we're not alone, that there's a whole world out there that gets it.
I think, you know, I heard somewhere or read somewhere that way back when you started this, like your goal, your ambition was to make this a global event. So now it's a few years later, you're a little bit older, and this truly is a global event. So I want to ask, how does that feel for you, knowing that something you started as a 9-year-old girl has spread around the world and united people with epilepsy?
Honestly, it's a bit hard to answer, because from day one I did say it's going to be worldwide. Like, this is going to happen. But at the same time, I don't think I really realized how big the world was. And so, like, all these places and all these people around the whole world, and all these places celebrating Purple Day and spreading awareness, it's really, like, heartwarming. And I'm so proud of how far it's come and how many people Purple Day has touched the lives of and helped. And ultimately, that's all I can really ask for, is that it helps this community know that they aren't alone, and helps them helps them cope with their epilepsy, and know that it's okay to talk about it, and it doesn't make you different than anyone else, really.
And I think I guess that's the core message, right? You know, we're normal human individuals with lives and goals and ambitions, the same as everyone else, right? And we have our place in the world. Definitely.
And yeah, epilepsy, when I was first diagnosed, it was still seemed really taboo to talk about, and for no really solid reason. It's a health condition. It's, you know, it's no different than someone needing glasses, someone having asthma. You have it doesn't have you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Following on from that previous question, so I asked, how do you feel about the fact that this event you started has truly gone right the way around the world? I want to follow on from that. So as you will know, I had a short conversation with you in the planning for this event, and had a very brief conversation with your mum, which was somewhat impromptu. So there was an event, I think it was relatively recently, where someone spotted you and they were talking about, oh, I can't believe I'm near someone that's famous, and you were looking around the room for a famous person and couldn't see them.
Sounds great.
Only to realize that it was you. How does that feel for you, realizing that for people living with epilepsy, you are actually something of a celebrity?
I don't really think I fully understand it. Like, I know I've created Purple Day, I know I've started this huge thing, but with the help of everyone else that talks about epilepsy and Purple Day, that does these lives, that does events, that spreads awareness, it honestly probably wouldn't have gone as far as it did. So to me, all of us, every one of us that contributes to this, is to thank for how far it's gone. Even though I was the one who came up with the idea, getting it worldwide, it's the help of everyone that has partnered, all the ambassadors, all the organizations, all the epilepsy warriors. And so for me, I don't think of myself as famous because it's everyone involved. It's not just me that it affects and that carries Purple Day with them. So when I hear people say that I'm famous, I'm like, no, like, I famous, no way. I think famous, I think like movie stars, like musician artists, like that are like, I don't know, but just for me, it's just, I guess, bewilderment that I'm considered famous. But yeah, it's surreal.
The way I look at this though, right, is you're saying about movie stars, and okay, sure, they bring some entertainment to our lives, but you've started a movement that's changing the lives of people with epilepsy. So in some senses, it's changing the world. It's changing people's views and attitudes towards epilepsy, and opening the topic of conversation up to everyone else, right? So I think it's right to think of you as a celebrity. You are changing people's lives.
Thank you.
No, absolutely not me. Thank you, I guess, for giving us this day to call our own. I want to highlight something that I spotted just in the messages at the bottom. I just want to highlight the fact we've got someone joined from Ukraine. So thank you to them, and our hearts go out to them. Everything that's happening in the Ukraine at the moment, and it's really heartwarming to see that they've been able to join us. So thank you to that person.
Yes, thank you for joining. And going over everything happening in Ukraine, our hearts definitely go to them too. We, we're stand with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go back to the start of your journey. So before you started Purple Day, how did you cope with your original diagnosis of epilepsy?
Not well. My we finally got to our neurologist, and he did some their usual tests, the EEGs and all that, and said you have epilepsy. And I'm like, I remember mom telling me, like, I brought my knees up to my chest, and I was like, no, I don't want it. Well, I don't have it. No, I'm not good. I don't keep it, essentially. And he was really good. He looked at me and he's like, well, you have it, so we're gonna learn to deal with it. And I'm like, fine. But I didn't tell anyone for at least a year and a half. Going over to sleepovers, I would always take my medications in a separate room or in the bathroom so my friends wouldn't know. I would get mad and yell if I heard my mom talking to like my even family members about it, because it's when people don't know talk about epilepsy, people are afraid of the unknown, right? So I was afraid that I would lose friends, that I would be made fun of, that I would miss out on opportunities. And furthermore, I didn't know anything about epilepsy. I didn't know anyone else who had it. So to me, I was the only one with this health condition. So it wasn't until our local association here in Canada, the Maritimes, the Epilepsy Association of the Maritimes, they came to my class, did a presentation. And when I seen how well my friends and my peers were being and wanting to learn more and really intrigued about epilepsy and learning more, it gave me the courage to tell them that I had it. Some of them, because of the unknown, did become afraid and was like afraid they wouldn't be able to properly help me when I had a seizure. So they stopped inviting me out to their campings. They stopped hanging out with me as much, and that was heartbreaking because they were my friends, right? They were who I was always with. Once they learned more and they learned that actually probably how to help with the seizure, they learned that you don't have to be afraid of epilepsy. It's nothing scary. They came around, and I'm still friends with some of them today, and that's why the education is so important. The research is so important. Like there's, like being diagnosed with epilepsy, we only ever knew of the grand mal tonic-clonics. We didn't know of complex partial. We didn't know myoclonic jerks. We didn't know all these 40 plus different types of seizures that there are. So for us, we're like, I don't convulse. I didn't at the time that we knew of. So like, epilepsies, no. So like, even us was a learning curve, learning new seizures and that it's not all the same. And then being re-diagnosed years later, it was a whole other learning curve because I now have many different types of seizures and like 2-3 diagnoses of epilepsy. So that was like a world spin too, and relearning how does my family and friends help me with this new diagnosis and with these new seizures that are appearing. As much as we know, it's still, I mean, my first tonic-clonic grand mal, my mom was there, thankfully. Second one, she was there the first one, but we didn't notice it. The second one, she was with me, and she even had that moment of like, oh my God, it's actually happening. Okay, what do we do? Okay, this is what we do. But in the moment, because it's like she took her by surprise, right? It was. It's a learning curve, right? Being diagnosed with epilepsy and keeping an open mind that of all different possibilities, and that it doesn't change who you are. It doesn't have to change your dreams of what you want to do in the future. If you set your mind to it, if you really want to do it and believe in yourself, you can. You might have to have adaptations, like swimming, wear a life jacket. Math, you have to draw lines to know which step you did first for memory reasons. Have alarms, but you can still do all these things despite your epilepsy.
So I guess actually you've kind of neatly run into what was going to be my next question. So one of the things that I'm kind of conscious of is there may well be people joining this live chat who are currently going through diagnosis or who have recently been diagnosed. So what would you say to those people who are still learning about their epilepsy?
Yeah, I can see how I ran into that question. Honestly,
don't worry.
It's if you're just being diagnosed, a big thing is to know that you're not alone. There's a whole entire world that knows what you're going through. And the epilepsy community is so strong and so, as spread as we are, we're so tight-knit together. And we're so there to support each other in anything that each other are doing and going through, and wanting to connect with each other no matter how far or how close you are. The epilepsy community and the agencies are such a great community to be a part of. And to know that, if you're looking for more resources on how to connect to the community, go to your local agencies, and because they are going to have all that contact information for you, all the information in general to help you, as well as your medical team. Always, as much as you can do anything you want to do and anything you set your mind to, if you believe in yourself, talk to your medical team before you start a high risk sport, because they're going to help you be able to find the right adaptations to be able to participate in this sport you want to do or this activity you want to do. So staying in contact with your medical team is very important through your whole life. But yeah, just knowing you're not alone and knowing that everything you're feeling, the fear, the concerns, it's normal and it's understandable. And but you don't have to feel alone because you're not alone. And, it's up to you on how you wish to disclose to people about your epilepsy, and how you want to talk about your epilepsy and when. But once you connect to this epilepsy community, it's honestly, you're going to feel like, why did I ever hide this? Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a common thing that I hear a lot when I'm talking to the people that the Epilepsy Action support is. It's common for people to initially not want that diagnosis, like you said earlier. Like, it feels like it's very much a label, so there is a kind of a resistance. But actually, once people start talking about it, they realize there are others. There are, you know, there are hundreds of thousands of people in the UK alone, and an estimated 65 million across the world living with epilepsy. So actually, you're absolutely not alone. One thing I'm really interested to hear about from you is, obviously you've been doing Purple Day activities and spreading awareness since 2008. How has that changed your life?
The support around the epilepsy community is tremendous, you know. Being diagnosed, reached out to the agency was a huge first step. You know, it took us a few phone calls and hang-ups before we actually went through with it. It's because once you talk about it, then it's like it really becomes real. And that's when you need the community for that support the most too. And same with having any questions, talk to your medical team and those who have epilepsy that have gone through it. They can help you find ways to cope that are going to be beneficial to you and your journey. And, you know, like, leaning on your friends and family, that having a good support system was crucial. It really helped me a lot over the years. You know, growing up as a kid, you know, there was some bullying. I learned at a different pace than others people, but I was never behind. You know, I'd have adaptations in school to help me keep up with my peers. After school, I've been really blessed with my circles. I acknowledge that they've all been really good. During epilepsy, it's in Purple Day. Hearing everyone's stories around the world also inspires me too. Like, hearing all you guys' stories inspires me to keep spreading awareness and keep reminding myself that none of us are alone, and that there are so many people out there that get it and that are willing and open to be talked to converse, to support each other. And on the lower side, the downer side of creating Purple Day, as much awareness as there is still so much that needs to be done.
Yeah.
There's still the stigma and the discrimination that we have to get rid of for those of us still living with it and those that are being newly diagnosed, so they don't have to face it.
I mean, yeah, you say that, and that kind of leads me on to another question. So you've talked about how things were for you with your own diagnosis, and obviously we've talked about the period of time you've been doing Purple Day since you launched it. Do you feel like in the time that you've been living with epilepsy, things for people with epilepsy have improved?
I definitely see it improved. You know, the education. I mean, I don't fully know exactly how the epilepsy community was before I was diagnosed. Before I was really just immersed in it. At least in my community, you know, it's improved, and around the world, I see improvements that have been made from when I started to now, and, you know, different myths being dispelled, all different resources, an increase in education systems and platforms, the avenues for all different ages that it's accessible to, people talking about it more. And yeah, I do find that now it doesn't seem as taboo of a topic in a lot of places. It's talking about epilepsy and owning your epilepsy as something that you have is almost like empowering in a way, because you have this health condition that a lot of used to be labeled as a disadvantage to every that impacted your life in a negative way, and you're owning that, and you're saying, yeah, I have it, but I'm still doing all this other stuff because why not?
Yeah,
So I think, yeah.
I think it's about owning it, isn't it? And I've taken a very similar attitude with my epilepsy over the years. One of the things you touched on there, and I want to explore a little bit more. You said about kind of the stigma and getting rid of some of the misconceptions around epilepsy. So using this Purple Day platform, if there was like one big thing that you wish everybody knew about epilepsy, I can see from the look in your face, this is not going to be a fun question for you. If there's like just one thing that you wish everybody knew, what would that one thing be? Do you want me to give you to answer that by just saying like my personal viewpoint on this one?
Yeah.
So for me, I've been living with epilepsy since I was 14. And for me, the biggest thing that I come up against time and time again is this misconception that epilepsy is seizures and that's it. And actually, I'm one of the fortunate ones, touch wood. I'm now 3 years seizure free.
Congrats.
Thank you. But I still live with the other effects of epilepsy, you know, the memory problems, the tiredness, and things like that. So like I really wish people knew that it was more than just seizures. It's the other ways that it impacts on your life. That's my kind of one big wish. What about yourself?
I definitely agree with that one. When you're asking the question, I made a slight face because I find it is hard to pick just one, because the different stigmas and different aspects of your life can vary, right? So it's hard to find one that's really the most. I do agree. People don't always understand that, you know, it's not just the seizures, it's the tiredness, it's the memory loss, it's the confusion, it's the, you know, after seizure you're sore, the last minute cancellations, it's the mental health toll it can take on you, it's plays on your family and friends, you know. It's not just you, it's not just the seizure, it's everything that comes along with it as a bonus or side effect or
Yeah.
So
here you are. I can't do maths. However many years it is down the line since starting Purple Day. What's the next step for you? What's the next project?
My big thing that I've been trying to work on for a few years now, that I really want to see more of, is epilepsy taught in like school curriculums. You know, I remember being in high school and junior high and college, and you know, they talk about diabetes, they talk about cancer, and which is all great and definitely be talked about as well. But then afterwards, my teachers come up to me and be like, "Hey, so yeah, like, what are your seizures like? Because in the past we've had people with this and this or this," and I was like, "Mine's actually this way." But I'm like, you've clearly had students in the past, and there's probably more students than just me that are in your classes with epilepsy, but you're not teaching the rest of the classes about it.
Yeah.
And when you teach people in school and when you teach people young too, it almost is like a more of a normal thing to grow up with, knowing about. You know, I had a teacher tell me I had to work on my memory after already telling her I had memory issues due to epilepsy. I'd love to see it taught in the school curriculum as a mandatory class, because it's the second most common neurological disorder. It's so common that people don't even realize how common it is. That why isn't it already being taught in schools, in first aid sessions? And, you know, I'd love to increase the effect of like the mental health toll it takes on you. You know, I went through a depression, I wrote a suicide note. Like, it's draining. And again, people only see the seizures.
Yeah. And rates of depression, unfortunately, in people with epilepsy are really high, sadly. And I guess that's one of the other aspects of epilepsy that people generally don't see, because same as with epilepsy itself, it's a stigmatizing thing, so you don't want to talk about it, right? So it becomes almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I want to check in with Chantal. Have we got any questions in the comments that you wanted to put to Cassidy? Anyone's asking?
Not yet, but this is a really good time actually now. You know, really fantastic and interesting chat. Thank you, Cassidy and Simon as well, for sharing your experiences. I've just been looking at where everyone's joining us from. There's Israel, Indonesia, Canada, Ukraine, as you said, UK. Anyone else, if you're joining us anywhere else in the world, just give us a shout out. Thank you for joining us on Purple Day. If you have just joined, we're here with Cassidy Megan, who founded Purple Day back in 2008 when she was just 8 years old, and you know, look at it now, how it's just grown. And I'm sure social media has been a huge part of that, Cassidy, isn't it? You know, it connects people.
Definitely.
It connects people all over the world. Australia, Minnesota.
Pretty sure as well. And here's one of the incredible things, right? Because all these people are in different time zones, and this kind of comes back, I think, to what we were saying earlier about your status, Cassidy. Actually, people in time zones all around the world are tuning in to join in this chat with you. So I think that's incredible that the people all around the world are going purple and joining this chat, and that must make you so proud, right?
It does, you know, seeing everyone. Different time zones can be so, make it so hard to join in with. So having people join in at all hours of the day or night, you know, it's amazing with that support. And, you know, that kind of goes into the support system of the epilepsy community, right? It's anything they can do to help another epilepsy person or association, they will do. You know, it shows that epilepsy doesn't have any boundaries and that we all are the same, and we don't let things stop us like that. We're in this together, no matter what.
We've got a few questions joining now, actually. One from Matt saying, how, you know, what other options would you suggest for people with drug-resistant epilepsy? So, you know, when your medications just aren't quite controlling your seizures, what other things can people look to try and help?
Yeah, you know, I know a few people who have like drug-resistant epilepsy, who medications don't work for, and it does make things harder sometimes, you know. I'm, again, not medical, but, you know, some of these people that I know that go through this, you know, they have gone through like different surgeries that they qualify for. You know, like work with your medical team, look at different options that are even outside the box, you know, like there's options out there that still need more research and still need more studies done, but also have some results that are positive. And, you know, it's kind of everything with epilepsy, right? It's dependent on the person, it's dependent on the type of epilepsy, on how it's going to affect you. And that's why medical team is ultimately the best people to talk to about it, because they know you and they know your body's chemistry, your brain chemistry, so they would know the best solutions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it, it's one of the things I find incredible now, looking at epilepsy now compared to where we were. There are more options. You know, there's much more research going on into the ketogenic diet and things like that. You've got the VNS, the vagal nerve stimulator, and things like that. So there are other options. And I think, Cassidy, you're absolutely right. It's about discussing those options with your medical team and seeing what might work for you.
Exactly. And like even like so even building on that, like you said, there's so much new things now from when we were first brought into the epilepsy world, and there'll be new things coming out in the future too. So if you hear of new things and new ideas, you know, like research them and then bring the name of them and your research to your medical team, get them to look into it more. Because sometimes the newest thing might be the thing, you know? It's
Yeah.
sometimes the oldest thing might be the thing. It's crazy how many options there are and to be explored.
Yeah, I mean, I've been living with epilepsy, sad as it seems to say it, since before you were born. That makes me feel really old. But I'm actually controlled on one of the oldest known AEDs, having tried many over the course of 20 something years. I'm actually on one of the oldest ones. So it's crazy. You know, we're all different. We're all individuals. So medication that works for one person may not work for someone else. So it does make it difficult, but there are options out there. Chantal, have you picked out any other questions in there? It's
quite a broad question, but it's like, what more can I do to raise awareness? And I guess that's, you know, joining these kind of lives, these sort of sessions, sharing posts on social media. But is there any other thing that people can do to raise awareness? I guess maybe talk to someone in their own, you know, just start with their own networks, I guess.
Talk to everyone.
Yeah. Anyone and everyone you talk to, you know, there's finding ways to bring it up in conversation. You know, it could bring it up in conversation, bring it up in contacting your local towns or cities, businesses, to like decorate their foods purple. You know, put some purple food dye in it. You could getting your buildings that have lights outside them to light up purple in March or on Purple Day. You know, contacting your local news stations, radios, all that. You know, there's so many avenues. A good way to like think of ideas is like, how do you usually come across news? How do you usually hear about different initiatives, right? And when you think of those ways and those avenues, why couldn't you reach out to them and put out your own through them?
And I feel like, and I'm looking for your opinion on this one, Cassidy. Like, I feel like from my experience, one of the difficulties is, as you yourself said earlier on, when you receive that diagnosis, your immediate reaction is, I don't want that. I don't want the label. I don't want the condition, and it leads people to kind of keeping it all in and hiding it, not disclosing their epilepsy. But then going, oh, we need more awareness. And actually, in that sense, the onus is kind of on us as people with epilepsy to go out there and talk about it. Because actually, if the people living with epilepsy won't talk about it, then people who aren't living with epilepsy definitely aren't going to talk about it. I feel like it becomes one of those situations where we have to go out and educate everyone around us. And if each one of us was educating 3, 4, 5, 6 people, then the word kind of spreads, right?
Definitely. And you know, like when you talk about your epilepsy with someone, like mention how little like people it is talked about that, and why it should be talked about more, because that could encourage the person you're talking to then tell their circle of peers, get their workplaces involved, you know. And like a great thing about like having like a color or something associated with Purple Day, you know, you see all these people wearing purple ribbons or shirts, and you look at them like, what's the ribbon represent? You know, what does the purple represent? And that gets this conversation flowing too to some people. It is all it is up to us to take that first step to educate the world, so that when they talk about it, they're educating their circle of peers about the correct ways to help.
Yeah.
Because there are still a lot of myths out there. So as great as any awareness is best if it's the correct awareness.
Yep.
Just wanted to pick up on something, Cassidy. Obviously, you were diagnosed as a young girl, and Inez just asked a question. What age should children, teenagers know about epilepsy? Because seizures can sometimes look scary. It can be traumatic to see. So yeah, so it's hard, I guess, for, say, a child whose maybe parent has epilepsy, and they're having to watch them have seizures and deal with it, and that can be so difficult. So it's kind of what age, or I guess it's hard to put an age on it, but how do you, any words of advice for maybe, say, parents with epilepsy, and how they talk to their children about it?
Any age can be epilepsy can be discussed with any age, right? It's ultimately what's going to make the difference is wording and age appropriateness. So if you're a parent, you're trying to tell your kid that you have seizures, you could explain, like, a fellow ambassador lives a bit away from us. She has epilepsy, and her son, she's teaching her son how to help her when she has her seizures, she's told him, like, her brain has extra bursts of electricity sometimes, and it can make her feel different, feel off, and her body fall and shake. And when this happens, try to stay calm, move hard things away from me, and call dad or call 911. And but let them know that, ultimately, it's okay, nothing changes afterwards. It's the fear of the unknown. It's the unknown that initiates that fear.
Mm-hmm.
So having them know about epilepsy, talking about it removes that fear and removes that unknown. And as long as we talk about it and we're making epilepsy not scary. And so using wording, so a little kid might not understand what a convulsion is, might not understand what a tonic-clonic is, or photosensitivity, so finding ways. Over the last few days, I've done Zooms with classes, and they're 7 years old, so they're not sure what all these fancy long names are that are associated with epilepsy. So talk about my own epilepsy. I was yeah, I have generalized epilepsy and photosensitivity and myoclonic jerks. And then I'd say myoclonic jerks are when you're falling asleep, kind of like when you're falling asleep, when your body jumps you awake. It's a bunch of those little jumps in in the cluster. So finding little ways to explain it like that to help them associate it with stuff that they already know of, so that they can kind of visualize and understand what they'll be helping you with.
That's a great way, I think. And I guess not even that doesn't really apply to just children, does it? If you can just help people to understand and talk them through and try and get them to see in practical terms, as well as how they can help you emotionally and stuff, I think that's just half the battle, isn't it? Just getting
it is.
I noticed someone in the comments made a really, really good point, which was he feels like it's better to warn people about it than have them find out because he's fallen over. And that's very much my attitude as well. It's better to warn people and go, this is what's going to happen. It's going to look like this. You deal with that like this. And like you say, Cassidy, it's a fear of the unknown, right? And that's basic human nature. You give people the information and the knowledge, then they're going to be able to deal with things.
Oh, exactly. Every time, yeah. So example, even with myself, when I very first learned about epilepsy and Star Purple Day, I forget where we were, but someone had fallen, was sitting down at a table, and they had a seizure. a ton of chronic grandma. And, you know, because no one around was expecting it, we all kind of froze, like, oh my God. But thankfully they had their family with them, so their family was able to help. And we're like, okay, so, and that's not to say, like, always be on guard. It's to say, I agree with that comment, and with you, it's, if you know that this said person has epilepsy and what kind of seizures they take, you're going to be better equipped on how to help them. The whole saying of knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
And Cassidy, you talked earlier on about some really dark times that you've been through, and you know there might be people watching now who kind of feel like they've had or they're having really difficult times, and how do they pick themselves up and get on? Can you sort of put into words kind of what managed to make you kind of get up and move forward, you know, even in those really difficult times?
Knowing that a saying we've come up with in our house is, it's okay to have those dark times. It's okay to have the pity parties, for lack of better words. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel all these emotions at once, but it's also okay to talk about these emotions. It's okay to make light of whatever is bringing you down, because if you make light of it in an appropriate way, it makes it less daunting. It makes it less draining. And talking about it too, you also realize that, much like epilepsy in general, there's so many other people out there that get it. When I first talked about my dark times like this, we were actually in India, and I just finished giving a conference. There was a question and answer period, and one of the women, she'd asked, she's like, well, you don't have those moments of despair, so you don't understand. She said it because I had never talked about it prior, because nobody else did either. So when she said that, I was like, no, I do get it. Like, I'm currently going through all of this, and a bit of a blur because it was emotional, really emotional. But yeah, it was, you know, it felt good to talk to someone who had gone through that. And still, you know, it doesn't always go away. You know, you always have down times, but being open about it and talking about it with the community, with your people you trust first, even, you know, makes a world of difference. And when having these pity parties and these down days, they're all okay to have, but you can't stay there. You can't live there. Have your moment, have your day, and the next day, when you wake up in the morning, know in your soul and tell yourself that, all right, I made it another day. I can do it again. I am that strong and that powerful in myself that I've made it this far. Sure and heck can make it further. Because you have that support system. You have this whole community. You have the agencies. You have your family and your friends. You have some kind of support system no matter what. Even, I know, unfortunately, some people don't have their family with them. Some people have struggled making friends. If that is you, you still have a support system because you have everybody on this live. You have us in this life here. You have a whole world of the epilepsy community. And although, in a sense, we are all strangers, we are also all family. And that is super important too. You know, if you feel like you can't get out of the dark, reach out to anyone that's up in the community, and I guarantee it'll help shoot you right out of that dark spot.
That's so powerful. I'm just looking at some comments. There's one from Megan just saying that when she's told people about it, she's got fired from her job, or friends have said, you know, we can't be friends anymore because we don't want to deal with it. And that's really hard to take, isn't it? When, you know, those are your networks, your jobs, your friends, you know, and then when they start to close off, it's but but there are people around, so you have to find your networks, I guess. If the traditional ones close off, you have to seek out new ones.
It's true, and that's why I said, like, if you don't have, unfortunately, family or friends, or if your workplace fires you, which as a whole other ballgame, in Canada, it's illegal to fire someone because of their epilepsy. So instead, some workplaces will actually just make your work life so intolerable that you end up quitting for no reason except for the fact that you disclosed your epilepsy. And it's sickening to me that that happens. Another thing I'm trying to work on to try to get to stop. So when that happens, reach out to your local agencies. Your agencies are there not only to educate the public, but they're also to advocate for you for when you can't advocate for yourself. They're there to help find you other jobs that, I don't want to say don't care about your epilepsy, but all of that. I say, all right, you have epilepsy, sure. Are you capable to do this though? And if you are, they're like, awesome. Now what can we do if you have a seizure? It's agencies help advocate for that avenue too. And that's why they're a huge asset in this community. They can also help you put you in contact with other people in your area that have epilepsy in this community too. About the friends saying we don't want to deal with you or your epilepsy, at that point, they're never really your friends. They never were. Because if they were, they wouldn't have said that to you.
Yeah.
And along their journey, you'll find the actual friends that you deserve and deserve you. And those friends will help you realize that the friends you lost, it wasn't what friends you lost. It was them that had the losing because they lost you. You're not alone in this.
And I think in some ways, Cassidy, like the same is true with employers, right? If an employer is willing to fire you because you have seizures, yeah, they're lost. They've lost a member of staff, actually. And personally, I've like you, I've had dark times in my life, and I sadly I was sacked by an employer a number of years ago, but I kind of moved forwards from that, knowing that actually I want to work for an employer that's going to look after me and support me, right? So actually, in the long run, I was better off for it because I found a better employer. And in some ways, it's about how you frame it in your own mind, right? Instead of
100%.
find the positive in that situation.
It's so true. It's how you frame it. It's with the work, it is their loss because we are resilient. We are so strong. We have seizures and we still get up the next day and do what we have to do. We may need some adaptations. We may need some extra few minutes as of a break or in the day. But for losing those extra few minutes that we need as a break, you're gaining so much as an employer because you have a dedicated, resilient, strong person in your roster, in your company, and any given day, someone could walk in as a customer and have a seizure. And because they turned you away because of your epilepsy, they're not going to be able to help that person because they refuse to learn. But if you were there working with them, you would probably know, at least better, how to help them. We're used to adapting too, and in a workplace, nothing's ever set in stone until it's done. Things are always changing, so we're going to be used to that adapting because we do that in our everyday life.
Yeah, it's part of living with epilepsy, isn't it? Learning to adapt to changing situations, right?
It is, yeah.
And someone's just mentioned in the comments something else that I think is really important, and I'm sure you'll agree, Cassidy. Some of it is about learning to love yourself for who you are, right? Epilepsy is a part of us, but it doesn't define us. It's one facet of making us who we are, right?
It is, it's just like we said earlier, it doesn't have you have it. It's owning your epilepsy, and it doesn't define you, it's a health condition as if someone has asthma or wears glasses, And it does mold us in a way to be more adaptable and to be more resilient, because we have seizures that take us down and out through the trenches, but we still get up and we still fight and we still are who we are, you know? We don't let it control us. We don't let it take over who we are, because it's not who we are. We are who we want to be. And having epilepsy just makes our drive that much stronger. And that's the only way that epilepsy impacts who we are.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've just seen another question from Indonesia. What or who is your biggest strength?
Ooh.
Tough one.
It's not really one person, honestly. It's, for me, you know, I do get tired sometimes because of having epilepsy. It takes its toll, you know? There are some times where I'm having a dark days and I don't 100% want to do certain things. But then I hear the stories of every one of you guys in this community, and I'm like, this is what I do this for. You all, the whole community is my essential strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the people.
It's about,
It is.
yeah.
And like having the support system behind me too, with my family and friends, is big too. But between the support system of them and them supporting me, and then hearing all your guys' stories, the good and the not as good, it all contributes to me with my passion and my.
And continue you must. Now, you do
Definitely.
a grand job, Cassidy, and it's great to have you with us. Have we got any more questions that have gone through in the chat that we need to get through? Because I'm conscious on time, because you're very
I think
today, Cassidy.
if anyone's got any questions, it's us now. I've just shout out to Epilepsy Traveller. They've just come back from a sponsored walk for Epilepsy Action. So I hope you've been enjoying some sunshine. We've actually got sunshine in the UK for about a week, and then next week it'll be back to normal. So everyone's out and about. But yeah, I think someone's asking about having to have a video EEG and they're nervous and about that. So any kind of words of support there?
Yeah. So video EEGs, I went in for a long-term EEG. It was like 2 weeks long, and it was on video the whole time, unless you're gone to the bathroom. But it's honestly, you're in the safest place you can be to have a seizure. You're surrounded by everyone who knows the right things of how to help you when you have the seizure. And ultimately, when undergoing the video EEGs, you're going to get some kind of answers that are needed to help you get better with your epilepsy. And, you know, I was nervous going into it at first too, because I'm like, I'm actually trying to have a seizure now. Like, I spent my whole life trying not to. It's a weird turn of events. And then it's like, okay, having seizures, how is it going to impact me? How much of the seizures is it going to be? But again, you're in the safest place you can be to have one. The worst thing I think about the long-term video EEGs and EEGs in general is the glue they put in your hair, because that's just, it's so hard to get out.
I'm not quite sure what you mean, Cassidy.
Oh, then you don't put it down here?
I'm told the best thing for getting rid of the glue is actually Vaseline.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I can't vouch for that personally, but I'm told Vaseline is the best thing for getting rid of that. I don't. The other thing I think is worth noting about video EEG is, if it's like a long term, like, you know, an extended 5 days a week, whatever, they're quite boring, right? There's not a great deal to do.
Yeah, so when I was in last time, I was actually, our hospital has an EMU unit, so there was 3 other beds in the room. And you know, you had a curtain you can close if you want some privacy, but we did movie marathons, we pulled all-nighters. My uncle actually donated a bunch of brain teasers to the unit to help stress us out to have seizures. and find something to do. You know, you can bring coloring books and coloring stuff, bring laptop, bring cards, anything you love to do to keep yourself busy. You know, bring your electronics to how to pass the time.
So,
Honestly, yeah, anything you love to do is little knickknacks and little hobbies that you can do in a room, bring with you. It's gonna pass the time a lot easier. And you get to know your nurses too, right? So you make that connection and that support there. But honestly, Trishna, you got this. You're going to do amazing. You're going to be perfectly okay with this video EEG. It's a lot more daunting beforehand, but once you get in there, it's so laid back. It's just, you're essentially just laying there, right? You're just like, here we are. It's like a little vacation.
of sorts.
Answers.
One last question, Cassidy, just from Steph. How do you deal with the sort of anxiety before you know you're going to have a seizure? Is there any, you know, it must be so hard that kind of bit where you know, how do you kind of, I guess psychologically, is there any kind of tactics or techniques that you've had to kind of perfect over the years?
So for me, I don't have auras or warnings. My seizures usually just kind of happen. But there have been times where like I've missed medications and I'm like, it's probably gonna be a seizure tonight. And in that sense, it's more, I make sure I have everything in place safety wise. So I'll get my mom to sleep or someone to sleep out with me. I will get I'll make sure I have like all soft things around me. I'll make sure I'll try to sleep on my side. There's not a whole lot really you can do except for have those safety precautions in place. And you know, try to get your mind off of it, because whether it's you start reading a book, you watch a movie, you go online, taking your mind off of it, off of the possibility of having a seizure, eliminates the stressing of the stress, because stress in itself can bring on seizures with the added task of already being on edge of having one. So if you get your mind off of it, that extra stress is gone. So it might, in that sense, limit your chance of having one. And yeah.
Definitely. I think it's a skill, isn't it? But yeah, I think it's just sort of knowing yourself and accepting. I think we've talked about acceptance a lot, haven't we, throughout this call? But you know, you're in a safe place. People are in a safe place here, and you know, I think thank you to everyone who's kind of joined today and asked questions and interacted. I hope it's helped you. And you know, if there's any other things that you want us to cover in these kind of lives, please just drop us a message. This is the first time we've done one with you, Cassidy, but obviously we want to do more, and there's so much we could talk about. We've only just, I can't believe an hour's just gone. It's gone really quick.
I know.
Is there anything else you wanted to say, Cassidy, before we leave?
Just thank you for having me on here, guys. This was so much, fun's the right word, but I love talking about it and talking to people in the community. So to me, it kind of was fun, even though we talked about some harder things. But thank you for having me on here, and thank you for doing these lives. Everyone listening, tuning in, that'll watch this later maybe, know that you're not alone. Know that everyone here and in the epilepsy community is with you. Anytime you want to reach out. And then will this be like posted on your guys' page to like share and watch later?
Yeah, no, we're hoping, if technology is on our side, we hope to have this at the end of the call, and then we'll post this. So if anyone's joined towards the end and you've missed, you know, there's lots of words of wisdom that people need to go back and see. So yeah, all being well, we will be posting this after.
Excellent. All right, I will definitely share it then. But till then, guys, thank you so much. This was amazing to be a part of, and I thank you guys for doing this and everything else you do.
Thank you for talking to us, Cassidy. I just want to echo the comments of one of the comments just in the bottom there, saying thank you for being so open and honest with us today. It's been great chatting to you. Thank you so much.
Anytime, guys. You know, the more honest we can be with our journey, the more it helps each other.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Also, what we did mention in this chat, your guys' video that you did with the lights, amazing, huge impact, very impactful. You guys did an amazing job on those videos, and yeah, I cannot say enough about them.
It gives me goosebumps. I've seen it about 100 times now, and it still gives me goosebumps. If you haven't seen it, after this live ends, just please go and have a look.
Check out those.
And please share and everything. Just please share your story and help. But yeah, have a good rest of Purple Day, whether it's just started or just ending, depending on where in the world you are. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye. Bye. Bye.